Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining us. My name's Tom Pollock. I'm the founder of a company called GovReady. And as I said, hopefully over the next 45 minutes to an hour, I'm going to talk about the opportunity available to small to medium businesses with government supply. And it is a massive opportunity. There's a number of things that government are looking for in their providers, which we're going to talk about in a bit of detail as well. If you've got any questions throughout, I'm not too sure how many we're going to have actually on this event today. So maybe if you've got any questions, just put them in the chat box before you forget them. And I think we'll probably hopefully have 10 to 15 minutes at the end just to open it up for questions. And if they're in the chat box there, we should be able to address them. If we don't get time, then someone from GovReady will come back to you and we'll address any questions that we may not be able to get to. So with that, we might kick off. All right, what's our purpose? This is GovReady's purpose. The reason we exist, right? The problem we solve effectively. We help small to medium businesses, Australian businesses, essentially to become attractive and ready for government supply, or become attractive partners for government, and then help them win government contracts, not grants. Some people get us confused and come to us and say, can you help us with getting a grant through? No, is the short answer. We help businesses to actually partner with government and deliver services and products for government at all levels, local, state and federal. So it's a pretty cool job. I love what we do. I love the GovReady family that we've got helping to succeed in the government space. I'm not a massive fan of talking about myself, but I also don't like going to these events and just potentially having someone talk, someone who I have no idea of their background talking to a bunch of PowerPoints. So give you a little bit of background. In the early 2000s, I was general manager of a professional services firm, and the only sector we weren't doing any business with was government. Two of our major competitors were picking up all these big government contracts, and that really annoyed me. So I got the green light from my boss to basically dedicate half my role to getting into government revenue streams. And I had a really nice boss because it took me about 4.5 years of crickets, tumbleweeds, thanks, but no thanks, please come again. We were seeing nothing. What I didn't realize really, we were firing a shotgun blindfolded and not hitting. I had no strategy, really didn't know where to go, what to do. But what happened over that period, my government network was growing. So any meeting with a government decision maker, or a DM, if you hear me say that, or an influencer, I was really trying to figure out what they look for in their small business partners and how they want small business partners to engage with them, and the things that they want from their partners before they would actually offer them different contracts. So eventually we got the first one, which I didn't realize then, but it was a bit of a test. We delivered that really, really well. And then our government contracts grew until government revenue was about 30%, 30 to 35% of our company's revenue. And that's where we stopped. And that was mainly from my government network sort of saying to me, that's great. You're invoicing us, that's fantastic, but we can turn the tap off really quickly, right? So change of government, change of policy, change of decision makers. Plenty of businesses over the years that have crumbled very quickly because they've really just relied on a few nice government contracts. So fast forward to about 2017, 18. I always wanted to be an author, and I was probably 43, 44, no, probably early 40s. Don't know if it was a midlife crisis, but I decided that I was going to write that book. And that's what I did. I didn't know what I was going to write about. I knew I wanted to help small business, and I wanted to help the local community. I've got 3 young boys and didn't realize how valuable the local community is when you're bringing up kids. I'm going to assume that we've got mainly small to medium businesses here today. And whether you know this or not, 44 cents in every dollar that your company earns stays in your local community. So I wanted to write a book that would help small business sector, which would then trickle down directly to their local communities. I realised after some thinking that the thing that I knew most about that a lot of SME, small to medium business owners don't, is how to get into government revenue streams. And so I wrote that book. I had it published. Got the box arrived. The first box arrived literally 2 days before the first lockdown, COVID lockdown. Really, really proud of that. And from there, basically, GovReady was born, basically off the back of that. So with that, we will continue. So hopefully that's enough about me. So what are we going to talk about today? Yeah, we're going to talk about obviously government supply, government contracts, what they're looking for. And really the bottom 2 bullet points is what I want to make you aware of. Every year, I'm only talking state government here, and I'm pretty sure we've got mainly Queensland businesses here. So I've basically tailored this a bit just for a Queensland audience, but this is relevant across every state. Queensland state government purchases 20 billion every year in excess, or sorry, give or take, of products and services. You name it, they purchase it at some stage. So this is a huge opportunity. Big business, they know what to do to tap into these revenue streams. Small businesses, not so. And around about 6 weeks ago, I was sitting down actually in the lounge room with my boys, just watching one of the morning programs, and Anastasia Palaszczuk, our premier, was on, which got my attention. Basically, what she was talking about was how much state government will be spending in the lead up to the 2032 Olympic Games. And that forecast by Treasury is in excess of $180 billion. This is a huge market. It's an available market. And this is the market that we certainly want as many small to medium businesses to tap into as we possibly can. So knowledge is understanding. I don't believe it's knowledge is power. If you understand the lay of the land, if you've got that strategy, things become a lot simpler. So a few things you want to know about if you don't already. So all state governments have their own sort of tender notification sites. In Queensland, it's Q tenders. So if you just Google Q tenders, you'll hit that. I expect that there'll be a bunch of people in this room who are already subscribed to Q tenders. Set up a profile and you'll receive notifications. So you tick the boxes that are relevant to your business, and then you take you about 5 to 10 minutes to do this, and then you'll receive notifications across those areas when opportunities arise. So Q tenders is essentially where state government goes to market. Some of the councils use Q tenders as well. The Queensland Contracts Directory, this is where the panels sit for Queensland government. So a panel, if you're not sure what a panel is, basically, I'll use the example of PPE, right? Personal protective equipment. So when COVID hits, and government knows straight away they're going to need to purchase heaps of PPE over the next however many years. So instead of having to go out to market every time they want to purchase another 5,000 units of PPE, they set up a panel. And they went out to the market and said, anyone who wants to be on this panel, we're going to pre-qualify you. So here's the submission documents. If you're interested and you want to be on the panel, complete these submissions. They then assess them, and it's a pretty key process when they do that assessment. If your business qualifies, you'll get accepted onto that panel. And what that panel means is basically that government doesn't have to go to market. They can purchase up to $250,000 from most panels without having to go to market. They can just purchase directly from providers who are on those panels. So these are key thing to be aware of. Panels are absolute gold. Feds, the federal government, they have a site called AusTenders. If you just Google federal government AusTenders, you can do the same thing, set up a profile, and that site also includes all the panel arrangements for federal government as well. Local government, most of the councils, a lot of the councils use local buy. They can procure directly as well, but local buy have a lot of panel arrangements in place where local government decision makers will go to and say, hey, we need X, Y, Z. Is there an arrangement in place? Are there anyone pre-qualified? And they can purchase directly off those panel arrangements as well. And then we got the forward procurement pipeline. I like this, but I also don't like it. I'm actually going to show you what this is. And basically what Forward procurement pipeline. So when government does go to market, they'll release a tender document or whatever it might be, or an RFQ. And normally you've got about 3 to 4 weeks to respond. It's not a rule, but that's most of the time it's around that. For smaller businesses, a lot of the times you're wearing many different hats, and 3 to 4 weeks to complete a government submission plus run your own business is very challenging. And actually, that's where most small businesses stop. They just look at it and go, "We don't have the time." Forward procurement pipeline is designed to give you a snapshot of what government is purchasing over the next 12 months. So I'm going to give you a bit of a look into that. So you can see here, oops. So we're giving you a bit of a screenshot. So you can basically see what they're looking for by department. You can filter it by spend. You can filter it by region. And this snapshot here showing an estimated purchasing spend of 4.95 billion. And that's the problem. So this is good, right? It gives you a bit of an idea as to what's coming up. That's fantastic. And it gives you, you can drill down and get some contact details of people within government who may be able to give you some more insight into this. But the problem with it is not every government department updates it. When I looked a couple of months ago, Queensland Health had like 3 opportunities that were listed on this forward procurement pipeline. And Queensland Health is one of the biggest government departments in Queensland. We know there's a lot more purchasing going on within Queensland Health than what's being shown here on the forward procurement pipeline. Point being, this is certainly not an exhaustive list, but it is something that you need to be aware of. You can see at the top right-hand corner, TMR, Transport and Main Roads, they've got, they are thorough. They've got 100 opportunities listed there. And let's have a look for health. Health aren't even in the top 5 or top 8 or 9 that's there. So that should hopefully give you a bit of a snapshot as to what it's more intel. It just gives you a chance to prepare before the actual tender is actually released for market. And again, if you just go to Google Queensland Government Forward Procurement Pipeline, you'll see those as well. But we might actually try and send you the links to a few of these as well. Now, Queensland Government has a Buy Queensland policy. And this is important because there are probably mostly Queensland businesses here. COVID has escalated this in a significant way. The Buy Queensland policy actually came out in 2018. But COVID has accelerated that. Few things to make note of here. They're looking for ethical suppliers, and basically that means, are you a good business? You're paying your wages, super. You're not an undisclosed bankrupt, etc., etc. So almost every government submission you'll see a section there about ethical suppliers. If you're not an ethical supplier, don't bother bidding for government contracts. Now, when COVID hit, soon after, government realised how quickly small, medium businesses were being smashed, horrendously smashed. And they announced soon after that 25% of everything they procure must come from the small to medium business sector. And that's huge, right? Because normal procurement every year is about 20 billion. So a quarter of that was slated to go to small to medium businesses. As of last July, that actually increased to 30%. I haven't heard any rumours as to whether it's going to increase any more. I'd love it to. I'd love the German model where about 50% of their procurement comes from the smaller business sector, but we're not quite there yet. So be aware of that. The problem that government has is, while these targets have been put in place, there's actually not enough small to medium businesses actually putting their hands up and saying, yep, we're ready. We're ready to supply. We've got everything in place, and we're ready to bid and win government contracts. A big business get this. Small business, it's why we put on events basically like this, is to try and make as many smaller businesses aware that government want to supply, want small to medium business partners, and there is a really big opportunity here. Your local councils as well, they follow. They've all pretty much all in Queensland now, and actually Australia-wide, have a buy local policy as well, where they'll actually give incentives in place for businesses if they are in the local area. It's anywhere up to 15%. So if you're a local, if you're in Moreton Bay jurisdiction, like I love Moreton Bay. They've got a great policy where if a contract is less than $50,000, it must go to locals first. And they can only look outside if there's no locals in their jurisdiction who can actually service that particular contract. But even the larger submissions there, up to 15%, is weighted in a small business's favour before they even read your submission. So it's designed to level the playing field. And there's a few other things that we'll talk about shortly, which also help that as well.
Does this guy act as a consultant?
This slide here, I love it and I hate it for a number of reasons. So what we've done, we've basically got a snapshot of businesses, government departments. See the first column, government department, energy, public works, transport, main roads, Q build, and then you've seen the problem. So what they've gone to market for, and this is we've just picked a few businesses over the last 12 months, the value of the contract, and then you see in the last column, the size of the business that won it, and then who actually won it in the column before that. The one I want to draw your attention to is the middle column, total number of submissions. So let's just quickly look at the first one. Department of Energy, Public Works, they needed cleaning services, basically pressure cleaning. Pretty simple stuff. Contract value, $52,000. Total number of submissions, 2. But there were 2 businesses that actually bid for this particular contract. And that's what really gets to me a bit is, there's businesses that looking for grant opportunities. Like that business basics grant, I think it was early this year. And I'm not being disrespectful to anyone who bid for that. It was a $5,000 grant that can really help businesses. It was a $2.5 million funding pool. So do the math on that. That's, as to how many businesses actually benefit or receive that grant. The anger and the vitriol that went all online, it was crazy for all the businesses who missed out. And they were saying, oh, we had to go get our financials audited. We had to do this. I lost all this productivity, et cetera, for a small chance at winning a $5,000 contract. When there's a much larger opportunity here, which is right in front of you right now. Pest control services, $160,000. I love what Energy and Public Works did here. There were 5 submissions, so still a very small number. But they divvied that up and gave it to 4 pest control agencies. The supply trailers, there was 1 submission, so it was pretty easy selection for state government in that situation. The one that really makes me angry though, and forgive me if there's any New South Wales businesses, I'm a parochial Queenslander, but second bottom one, Queensland Law Society. So it's a new microsite for you in the law, which when we dug deeper into this, it's essentially a mini website. Good site, but a smaller website. Contract value was $26,000, which I'm told by some of our clients who do web design and web development is a very nice price for a microsite. There was only 1 submission for this, and that business, and here's what does me in, was a New South Wales business who won that. There was only 1 submission. So I guess the picture I'm trying to help you understand is there's a lot of government opportunities here. These smaller contracts, big business aren't that interested in these smaller contracts. So you've got a small pool of businesses who are aware of this and are bidding and winning these contracts. There's 450,000 small businesses in Queensland, 2.2 million in Australia. And these contracts here are very much available to them. So that hopefully just sort of gives you a bit of an idea of the landscape bidding for government contracts. Well, I love quizzes, I love trivia, so I want to get you thinking in case I'm putting some people to sleep. So that Buy Queensland policy, since 2018, how much money do you think has been distributed to the SME sector via the Buy Queensland policy? So we got 3.6 billion, 13.6 billion, or 36 billion. 5 seconds to give a little mental answer. All right. So $36 billion. And this is not an insignificant sum. There's so many businesses and struggling and scrambling to try and pick up contracts to keep them going for the next 3 or 6 months, there's a huge market here and this is just state government. This doesn't take into account the federal or local government as well. So be aware that there's a lot of business going out the door via this Buy Queensland policy. Love you to be a part of it. So there's a number of areas of impact, I guess, and what government are looking for in their suppliers. There's a few ones here I'm not going to spend much time on because they're really, they're really common sense, right? They're looking for capable businesses with expertise, and that's when they go through their bidding process. They assess as mandatory requirements. They assess you against all what they're looking for in a particular contract. Capability and expertise is certainly how do you prove capability and expertise, though? We're looking for evidence. So anything you do in a government submission, anything you write in a government submission, it means very little to the assessors unless it's backed up with some sort of evidence. So here's some examples. Here's a case study we've done. A little one, a lot of our clients freak out when we mention case studies. A little one-pager. This was the problem. This is what we did, and this was the ROI, or this was the solution. And here's a happy client, and here's a testimonial from that happy client. Again, that's all evidence. Financial stability. Yes, they would prefer less risky businesses. But since COVID, that landscape's changed as well. You used to have to wait 2 to 3 years of operation before government would really consider you. Again, COVID's changed that. The entrepreneurial space has also grown markedly in Queensland. It is a really strong sector now, and government, when they have a problem and they need it solved, they're not as caught up in a business which has been around 5 years or more. So it's still important, but it's certainly not as important as what it once was. Certainly diversity and inclusion as well. Strongly recommend if you have some sort of diversity policy in place, and look for diversity in the workplace and in your supply chains, importantly as well. Competitive pricing. We get this a lot when clients will say to us, "Oh, we've got this contract that we're trying to bid for. Any ideas on price?" Short answer: no. You know your business way better than we do, and the only advice we really do give to our clients around this is make your pricing fair. We know, and I know I've got a very wide government network, and businesses sometimes see an opportunity with government and inflate their prices significantly. Sometimes it has worked for them, but eventually government will find out, and it's very unlikely you're going to get too many more contracts after that. So be aware of that. The second thing is don't go too skinny. I remember the first contract I actually had a guy from procurement ring us, and he goes, "Yeah, look, you've been narrowed down to the last 3. We just want to know if you can sharpen your pencil a little bit more." And we were all excited. We're going, "Oh, we're down to the last 3. This is great." We were already gone in pretty skinny, but thought about it and gone, "You know what? We'll just trim a couple of other areas. We'll get the pricing down a little bit more." And we made a little bit off that contract, but really not much at all. And what I didn't know back then, because this is a fair few years ago now, is that's a common procurement technique. I was a lot younger then. There are a lot of times when they actually come to you and say that, say, "Hey, can you sharpen your pencil anymore?" They've already actually picked you as a provider. They just want to know that they're getting the best price you can offer. Getting back to that original question, what pricing should we go in at? What's fair? What's fair to government, and what's fair to your business? So somewhere in the middle there is what we recommend as a good sweet spot. They're also looking for capacity for growth as well. They know when contracts are awarded to small or medium businesses, that trickle-down effect in the local community is huge. So it means that you're going to probably need to purchase more from your suppliers, which also hopefully are local. That will help. And it might mean you need to employ some more people, et cetera, et cetera. So that is certainly something that is on the radar when government are looking at deciding who they're going to partner with on particular opportunities. Past performance, again, we're sort of talking about evidence there, your experience, your capability. and innovation as well. Don't think that we have a cool product or service which is going to solve lots of problems for government, but we just don't. We don't. Government haven't gone to tender for it, or haven't sort of identified they've got this particular problem yet. The entrepreneur, the innovation community now in Queensland is highly valued by Queensland government. They've set up departments, the Department of Innovation, to help them identify businesses at early growth stages with solid solutions which government can benefit from, and ethical standards as well. They want to do businesses with good businesses that are doing good things. And there's a number of things that you can talk about there. The biggest one that I'm a huge advocate of is CSR, corporate social responsibility, or ESG. There's a few acronyms, and that's basically how your business gives back to the community. Real short, low-level example of that is we support the local footy club. That's great, but as we recommend to all of our clients and give them a lot of recommendations around is how they can make a much bigger impact in a cost-effective way. And giving back to the local community and the wider community is something that certainly government are factoring in more and more so when they're deciding who they're going to partner with. All right, another quick question. What's the average amount in dollars of a government contract? And this is state and federal. So $40,000, $60,000, or $75,000. You get $60,000, you're right. So well done. So what I want to sort of help you sort of understand is there's a lot of common myths. There's 8 main myths that I've come across since GovReady was born, that's preventing and putting off many SMEs from actually bidding for government contracts. And big business love this. They'll perpetuate these myths, hoping that SMEs won't actually realise that they are myths. So I'm just going to talk about three of the main ones now. We won't have time to talk about them all in any detail. First one, my business is too small to fulfill a government contract. Well, that previous slide, I don't know how many we've got on this webinar, but I'd hazard a guess that at least 80 to 90% of you can fulfill a $60,000 contract. So that's something that it's across the board for state and federal government. And if your business can fulfill a $60,000 contract, you're not too small. Then you need to consider the opportunity open with government. Government will never need my product or services. I didn't put a slide in here, but the diversity of what government purchases will blow your mind. This is my world, right? So I live and breathe this. But a couple of months ago, we came across a contract for $1.2 million worth of shark bait. And I hadn't seen that one in a while. Mind you, we don't see everything. And hairdressers, you name it. The first time I saw a hairdressing contract, we looked at it and going, hairdressers? What are they going to need hairdressers for? And then we delved a bit deeper, and I spoke to a lot of my network. And you've got government managed aged care facilities and the prisons and a few other sectors, and hairdressers are needed. So we then looked back at the last 10 years, and there were 2 businesses which had won most of the hairdressing contracts. And they started off tiny businesses, and they were now national and predominantly off the back of government contracts. And I spoke to both of the business owners and asked them a bunch of things that they, but one of the things that I was curious just about is why they believe no one else or not many other hairdressers were bidding for government contracts. I suspected we knew the answer, but I wanted to hear it from them. And basically they believe that there's not many hairdressers out there who actually think the government are going to need them at some stage, but they absolutely do. And there's big contracts in that hairdressing space. You name it. Consultants, professional services, designers, food and beverage, IT. There's so many IT opportunities, automation, you name it, government, most products and services are required by government at some stage. And third one, our business can't compete with large multinationals. This is a myth that they love to keep going, but it's absolute rubbish. And I talked earlier about leveling the field, right? If you're a local business, you get incentives in place before they even read your submission. There's other areas as well. So if you're a local business, great, you get those credits, I guess, before they assess you. If you're a small business, you also, because back in the day, right, for the first couple of years we bid for contracts, there's a little box on the front page of everyone, virtually everyone, saying, "Are you a small business?" And I always said to my team, "Don't tick that box. If we tick that box, they're going to see us as risky. They're going to think, we're going to be behind the eight ball before they even read the submission." Little did I know, every time we didn't tick that box, we were missing out on somewhere between 5 to 10% of weighting in our favour before we even submitted. So silly mistake, lesson learned. Other categories as well that is given serious weighting. If you're a regional business, if you're a female majority owned business, 50% or more owned by a female, First Nations business, if you're a business, if you have a disability, and if you fit into a couple of these categories, you can get anywhere up to 35 to 40% weighting in your favour before they even actually start assessing your submission. So that's a huge leg up, and that's designed to level that playing field and get more diverse business sectors supplying government. How are we going for time? Oh, I'm moving through. Hopefully I'm not rushing. So what we're looking at, the value, so there's a bit of insight for local ops, so mainly Queensland government and local government councils. Value for money, it's taxpayers' money. So value for money is always one of the criteria for any government contract. Used to be really high. It's now not as high. Government aren't just looking, they're not looking for the cheapest provider now. They're looking for good businesses doing good things, capable, experienced, with evidence, and the percentage for pricing criteria is now nowhere near as what it once was. And even if you know, like your product or service, you know that you're a bit more expensive than your competitors. And we've got clients who certainly are. Just means when you do a tender submission, we need to make sure that we stand out in a number of other areas where they can blow their competitors away with the value adds or management structure or experience and the other mandatory requirements. Certainly looking to develop competitive local businesses and industry. Environmental protection or sustainability policy it's certainly for big business, it's a must-have. For the small to mediums, it's not as necessary, but I'm going to put a little disclaimer there yet. So it's something more and more the Queensland government, for example, the Olympic Games, right? You probably would have heard government coming out saying it's climate-friendly games, climate-friendly. I'm almost, it's almost every night on the news. So this is a rumor, not been confirmed yet, but the rumor is basically that Queensland government are looking for suppliers for the Olympics who have some sort of sustainability, environmental protection framework in place. And the rumor is that Business Chamber Queensland has a program called EcoBiz. It's a free program for Queensland small to medium businesses, and it is what I'm hearing is that's going to be the minimum level of requirement. So if you are looking at potentially supplying for the Olympics, a little bit of a heads up, you might want to consider looking into that sort of environmental protection framework, or have a chat with EcoBiz or Business Chamber. Ethical behaviour, fair dealing, we've sort of already talked about that. And they are looking for backyard first. They're looking for local suppliers, local businesses, and bit of a tip as well. If you can emphasize that you're using local supply chains as much as you can, then that's a big tick in the box when government are assessing any submissions that are put to them. All right. So, apologies, we have moved through a bit quicker than I expected. What do effectively does GovReady do? I'll take a step back a little bit. Remember when I said at the start how when I got the first box of books of my book delivered, that was awesome. What happened there was Business Chamber Queensland, actually, well, they were CCIQ back then. They were doing a roadshow after the first lockdown throughout Queensland. They got thousands of small business members who had been smashed, and the roadshow that they were putting on free for them was around procurement and supplying government. So I got contacted by CCIQ, and they, in a roundabout sort of way, said, "Hey, this is what we're doing, and we don't know as much probably as what you know. So would you lead these presentations?" And I've been in lockdown and house with 3 young kids, and any excuse to sort of get out for a few weeks. So yeah, happily led that. So what first blew me away was all these number of businesses there. They were big events, and it was at a Townsville event where a guy pulled me aside at the end and he said, I need more. The book's good, the presentation's great, but you can only do so much in an hour. It's not, but he said, can I take you for a coffee? I want to pick your brains more and et cetera, et cetera. I had a couple of hours before we flew out to the next event. So did that. And during that conversation, I don't know why, but we went into a lot more detail about our exact methodology, exactly what we did. Firstly, to get ready and become attractive and sticky with government, knowing that this is what they want. And then secondly, how do we engage with government decision makers, types of conversations to have, where to find them, where are these panels, what panels are going to be most appropriate, and a bunch of other things. He stopped me and he goes, I want that. And I said, what do you mean? And he goes, I want what you just described, but I want it tailored for my business. And he goes, how much and how long? And I went, I wasn't expecting the question. I just said, it's going to take me this long and this is what it's going to cost. And he said, make it happen. So I then had to go off and put together basically what we now know as the first government engagement plan, or a GEP. And it took me a fair bit longer than what I initially anticipated, but I arranged the handover. And during that handover session where we went through the whole GEP, he stopped me after about half an hour and he goes, Tom, this is going to transform the business. We now what we've got to do to be ready and attractive, and we now know what and who to engage with and how to engage and use the 3% rule, the government work on, and et cetera, et cetera. And I sort of stopped there after that meeting. Firstly, I was very happy, but secondly, I sort of stopped and I sort of looked at it and gone, well, you've got your SMEs here, you've got government here, and then there's a big gap in between. And essentially that's where GovReady was born. And pretty much all we do now is we design custom government engagement plans for our clients. There's 6 main areas that government look for in their suppliers, and we analyse the business across those 6 areas, and then we go off and build that government engagement plan, and then they implement their plan to become ready and then execute and win and fulfill government contracts. So what do we look for in our clients? We're looking for business with an actual real desire to get into government. We can give the keys to the castle, but it still means our clients have to do that implementation work, and in order to secure these contracts. So if the desire is there, then that's the key type of business that we that we work with, businesses or one-man bands, right up to, we won't go any higher than 199, because in government's eyes, SMEs have 199 staff or less. We will not work with big business. I hope that gives you a bit of an idea about the essentially what we do. Ironically, and there is a large amount of irony here now, state government and a lot of the councils actually bring us in to deliver workshops for them on how to help get small businesses to supply more to government. So it's a weird little circle, but yeah, it's good fun. Next steps, I think you'll be sent a link to a few of these. A lot of businesses are already, there's probably a handful of businesses in this room who are already ready for government supply. You just don't know it yet. And we designed a platform. It's a free, what we call the GovReady Pulse Check. It's 22 questions, and it analyzes your business across those 6 main areas of government supply. Answer those questions honestly. You'll then get sent a report telling you how you scored across those areas. And we've had thousands of these come through over the last 2.5 years, and anyone who shoots 90 or above, we get them happy call, ringing them and going, hey, if you've answered these questions honestly, you are ready for government supply. You just need to start bidding. So there's a small percentage who fit in that category. About 10% of submissions that come through are really, really low. And most of the time we figure out when we talk to them that these are the businesses who have been trying for 2, 3, 4 years to win government contracts, and they just got knockback after knockback. And we clearly can identify exactly why. So we sort of recommend them to sort of maybe stop bidding for a little bit and tidy up these areas, or if you want to work with us, we can help. And before you start bidding, because you really, in a nice way, you're wasting your time and resources at the moment. So that pulse check, really, really good tool. There's no cost for that as well. Love to connect with you guys on LinkedIn. There's a huge opportunity with government here, and even if only 1 or 2 businesses here realizes that or understands that and starts this journey, then happy days. And the last hour has been extremely worthwhile. If you'd like to connect, please do. I'd love to hear from you. If you're in that category where you're at the stage of your journey where you know that government is an identified sector for you, just not quite sure what to do or where to go or how best to put your business forward, welcome to having a chat. So feel free to connect. Want to catch up for a coffee and have a chat? More than happy to. All my contact details are there. We're at roughly 1:45. So I don't know if there's any questions. I might just see if we do have any questions, or if anyone's got any questions now. Happy to. I'm going to be here till 1 o'clock. But for those of you who want to head off and have an early mark, thank you so much for giving me your time today. I know you're involved in an SME. You've got a million different things that you've got on, but thank you for joining us today. But if we do have any questions, I'm just going to have a quick look in the chat box. Thanks, Kieran. I'm quite to get on SOA arrangement to provide org dev. I was told it would not open again for 2 years. Yes, yep. So that's a SOA, so it's a panel arrangement. Panels have opening and closing dates. So this is an ongoing problem that I have, and any time I meet with anyone from procurement, I raise this. New South Wales government has a policy where they'll review new submissions whenever with their panels. I love Queensland to move to this model as well, but at the moment they do have a start and a close date. So when you get to the end of the expiration date, those panels, if it's decided they're going to be kept, can be refreshed. And when they're refreshed, they can take new suppliers on. Some panels with underrepresentation will get refreshed, can get refreshed at any stage. Queensland government holds the right to refresh them whenever they want. So if you get told that won't open for another 2 years, not necessarily the case. And one of the things we do for our clients as a first point of call as part of their GEP is we identify all of the panels, and it's a maze trying to figure out the panels sometimes. When they open, when they shut, who you need to talk to, contact details, etc. Hopefully that answers that question. I sell natural dog products, market for government opportunities. Funnily enough, yes, I should have brought that up when I was talking about, it was probably 2 months ago, where pet supplies, pet food and pet products, they went out to tender for that. There's no panel arrangement as such for that, but they do go out to tender when required. And so dog beds as well.
Sorry, just to clarify, I can start wholesaling my product for natural dog care products, so like dog wash, detangler, paw balm, dog sprays, but I'm just not too sure if there's an actual government contract for that sector.
There's no panel. So there's no panel in place. So that means that when government's going to go to market, if government goes to market for a product, like for products that you're talking about, they're either going to go to tender, so you need to be registered with Q tenders, or if the purchase is going to be less than $10,000, it's purchased under a BAU arrangement, which is basically business as usual. So if a product or service is less than $10,000, They don't have to go to market. They're going to the businesses that have actually made themselves known to the right decision makers, and so those decision makers know that that they exist, and this is the product or service that they have or can offer. So that BAU, we loved that back in the day. That was probably 30% of all the government work we did sat under the BAU category. So many more people can purchase off it, and a lot of the products that you're talking about, the dog products, would fall like those purchases would come under the BAU category for Queensland Police and probably emergency services and a few of the other departments who have dogs.
Yeah.
Does that
Okay.
help?
Yeah, it does. And how often do these like hypothetically, like this, it doesn't need to be set in stone, but how often are these contracts coming up?
I can't answer that. Unfortunately, I can't answer that question. I've never been I never worked inside government. I've got a wide network who give us a lot of intel. Depends on the product or service. The one that they most often go out to market for is building and construction. But pet products, we saw that come up. They went out to market for that a couple of months ago, but we really couldn't tell you. I don't have a crystal ball for that. The BAU purchases, it's the smallest purchase for government. We don't even, the market's never even made aware of that because it's less than $10,000. They don't have to go out to market for it. So that's where a business like yours, you need to be introducing yourself to the decision makers in the right areas of government that you do exist and the problem you solve. They need to know you exist.
Yeah. And it's a lot of work for less than $10,000 compared to selling that to a small business or a chain store anyway for BAU.
I definitely don't believe that. Absolutely not. Government purchase more than your chain and convenience stores. I don't know your business, but I'm pretty sure they don't have $60 billion being targeted to go to SMEs over the next 9 years leading up to the Olympics. So there's a lot of opportunity there, but it's not when we outline that engagement. Sorry.
Oh, sorry. I meant specifically for dog wash. If they're quite sporadic with how often these bids are coming up, if they do, even like I know you said you saw one for dog beds and pet food. So it sounds like I won't be part of that huge pie of money leading up to the Olympics because it's just such a niche product.
Your product would be mainly purchased by BAU, business as usual. And there's no visibility for that. That's going to the businesses who have actually picked up the phone and located a decision maker and said, hey, this is who we are, this is what we do. And there's a defined process to do that. It's not that complex. But until they know you exist, you're never going to get any contracts from that BAU sector because you're one of thousands of businesses throughout Queensland.
So then if I've worked in Canberra and worked on bids for mostly defence and other departments like that, vet affairs, am I better off just to try and use that circle then to try and figure out who in Canberra makes those decisions and just go to them directly?
That would be your decision. I need to know more of your business, and I need to know exactly what you're trying to do into those businesses. If you've got connections in with the feds, then absolutely you got to use them. And I would definitely be using those contacts that you've got. But to get into BAU, it does require some effort. But the returns on the can be very, very significant. I mean, they pay on credit card as well, which is always a bonus.
Oh, okay. Well, now you've got my attention.
But if you've got other questions than that, we can. You got my details there. Happy to have a chat online or offline.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you very much.
No worries. I don't know if there's any other questions. If anyone does, then it looks like we've got an animation studio. We struggle to prove how we show we are environmentally sustainable. All right, so probably a conversation offline, but first place to start is an environmental or a sustainability policy. So look at the business, look at how you can change. And EcoBiz, if I were you, Ruckus Studio, I would, after this webinar, contact Business Chamber Queensland, ask them about the EcoBiz program. And again, it's a free program. They're going to send, you know, you might have to purchase some lights, or you might have to put some water filters on and a few things like that before you get the first level of accreditation with them. But that's your evidence there. We are EcoBiz certified. And there's a number of other companies that do this sort of stuff. But the reason I'm mentioning EcoBiz is it's subsidized by state government, so it's not going to cost you anything. But that's the best way to go about that. Hope that helps.